Hey, friend, welcome back to the Lifestyle School podcast, where we talk about the habits, the mindset, and the science that help you take ownership of your health and feel good in your body again. Today, we are diving into a topic that affects many more people than you might think, and that is leaky gut. Now, if you've ever felt bloated after meals, struggled with brain fog, battled stubborn inflammation, or even been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, this episode is for you. Because those aren't just random symptoms, they're signals, and in many cases, they're tied to something much deeper, something happening on the gut level. So let's break it down. What leaky gut actually is, why our modern environment makes us uniquely vulnerable to it, and what it can lead to if we ignore it. And most importantly, what we can do to actually heal. Now, before we get into it, a quick disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, and this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your physician before making any major health changes. Okay, let's dive in, guys. Let's start with the basics. So, what is leaky gut really? Okay, I feel like this is something that I have been talking about, I feel like my whole life with my family. As maybe you know from previous episodes, my dad is a functional medicine doctor and chiropractor who's been practicing for over 40 years. I had the honor of working with him in his functional medicine and chiropractic clinic for 8 years. And this is something that we talked about all the time with our patients and addressed. And so let's just start with the basics. I feel like, 15 years ago, no one was talking about leaky gut. No one knew what it was. But today, I think research is starting to catch up with, the effects and like the severity of leaky gut, how common it is, and then what it actually leads to in regards to health conditions. So hopefully at this point in 2025, you have heard the term at least leaky gut. Maybe you don't know what it means, but hopefully after listening to this podcast, you will feel like you know what it means and you have a good handle on the situation. So let's start with the basics. Your gut lining is made up of and when I say your gut, I mean your small intestine, is made up of a single layer of cells. They're just one cell thick. So that's all that separates your internal body from everything you swallow. And these cells are held together by what we call tight junctions. And their job is to act like a security system, letting in nutrients you need while keeping out pathogens, toxins, and undigested food particles. Okay, so you think of those pieces of corn that make it all the way from your mouth to your stool. That is what these tight junctions are keeping from getting into your bloodstream. So that's a little bit of a dramatic and hopefully a little funny example. But when those tight junctions start to loosen, due to things like inflammation, infection, stress, poor diet, or other triggers, you end up with what's known as increased intestinal permeability, or what we call leaky gut. And what that means is that things that aren't supposed to get through your gut wall, like bacteria, food proteins, or toxins, start to leak into your bloodstream. And as I'm sure you could imagine, that causes some problems. Your immune system is like, what? It freaks out. It starts taking those leaked particles as threats, launching an inflammatory response. And before long, you may develop food sensitivities, fatigue, brain fog, skin flare-ups, or even autoimmune issues. And I want to be clear, this is not a fringe science. It's this very well documented. And there's even a protein called zonulin that researchers have identified as a regulator of those tight junctions. And you can test this, and this is something we test in the clinic when I was working with my dad in the functional medicine clinic. When zonulin levels go up, what that tells us is that those tight junctions have loosened. And that's one of the reasons why gluten, for example, can be such a trigger for people with gut issues, because it raises zonulin levels in the gut. So now let's talk about why this is so common right now. And I'm so glad it's finally getting its day in the sun. The truth is, our modern world is basically designed to wreck our gut barrier, sadly. We can just start with processed food. Ultra processed foods are loaded with sugar, industrial seed oils, emulsifiers, and preservatives, ingredients like polysorbate 80. I was just looking at the ingredients on my pickles the other day and I was like, wait, these pickles have polysorbate 80? Like, why do we need this in pickles, right? Or, I'm going to try to say this word. It's very long. Carboxymethyl cellulose that damages the gut lining and disrupts our microbiome, which is essentially the gut flora in our small intestine. And another fun fact, we all have 3 to 5 pounds of microbes in our small intestine. And if the surface area of our small intestine was laid out, it would be the size of a football field. So really an incredible system. And protecting the lining of it is so incredibly important. So, other things that hurt this barrier is when we have things like medications, unfortunately. Antibiotics wipe out your gut flora, both the good and the bad. Again, you have 3 to 5 pounds of bugs essentially in your gut, and that's how your body breaks down and processes food. And antibiotics totally wipe out that gut flora. When you take NSAIDs, things like ibuprofen, it literally creates microscopic holes in your gut wall. And that's why you don't want to just be like popping a Tylenol or an ibuprofen every day because these are harmful to the lining of your small intestine. And things like acid blockers, they mess with digestion and your gut pH, which allows bad bacteria to thrive. And things like hormonal birth control also alters your gut flora and increases intestinal permeability too. So you got to be really mindful about, what medications are you taking and, because these are going to affect your gut. Next are environmental toxins, and this is a huge issue as well. Hopefully you've heard the word glyphosate now. It's one of the main active ingredients in like a weed killer called Roundup. The chemical used in many conventional herbicides. It's sprayed all over our food here in the US. It's a major issue. If you are on Instagram, I would encourage you to follow Glyphosate Girl. Her name is Kelly. She actually lives in the Bay Area here with me as well. There's also this group called Moms Across America on Instagram, and they test foods for glyphosate exposure. And even organic foods have glyphosate exposure in it. But glyphosate is an incredibly toxic weed killer that causes lymphoma, which is a type of cancer. There, if you in, I believe it was 2018, the first lawsuit was won against Bayer. They're essentially like a chemical manufacturer for farming, and since then, billions of dollars have been paid out to individuals who have been able to prove that glyphosate exposure gave them cancer and in some cases killed them. And it's incredibly toxic. And one thing that I want to let you know that's happening right now is Bayer, who is a German company that owns Monsanto, which is a US company. Bayer is actually a German company. Do you want to know something? Sorry, I'm getting on a huge tangent right now, but I think this is important. Bayer has acquired Monsanto, who owned the glyphosate. Bayer, it's Bayer. They are a German company, and this German company, glyphosate isn't legal in the European Union. Like you can't use glyphosate in Germany, but this German company is now going state by state getting an immunity shield so that people in these states who are exposed to glyphosate can no longer come and sue them for the cancer that it's causing because it's in their food. It's, sprayed on the lawns in golf courses. And I believe the first case that was won regarding glyphosate was a man who worked on a golf course. And, he had to spray, how do you get a golf course to have no weeds and a perfect lawn? Well, they're sprayed heavily with glyphosate. It's a weed killer. And also, if you haven't listened to my podcast on modern wheat, something to know is like modern wheat that's not organic, even some organic, but It's going to have residuals, but modern wheat, how they do like produce it is they spray glyphosate on the crops to dry it out so that they can um, uh, harvest it faster. And so our like the residual glyphosate, which is extremely toxic, is super high on our modern wheat. And I mean, it honestly, I think it's criminal. So I'm going to get off this soapbox here, but glyphosate is such a big problem. And if you are in a state that is currently Bear is trying to get an immunity shield in. You need to be calling your senators, your House representatives, and say, we absolutely do not support this liability shield. We want to be able to sue a company that's giving us cancer and spraying poison on our food. So I'm really, really hopeful that with some of the changes that are happening in like our governmental agencies, that glyphosate can be banned in the US. I think that'd be a huge step for our overall health in the US. But another reason just to eat organic, I should honestly do a podcast on that. But if you aren't already, go follow Glyphosate Girl in Moms Across America to learn more about these like chemicals that they're spraying on our foods and how they're trying to get a liability shield from there. So anyway, back to the topic. So glyphosate, it's a chemical. It's super harmful to our gut bacteria. Add in things like BPA from plastics, heavy metals, and even mold exposure. And we've got a chemical soup that's really rough on our gut health and causes major issues for gut permeability. Next up, we have stress. And also, I think this is big. Last week, we were talking about self-love, and a big part of self-love is learning to say no and like getting the stress out of our life, right? So whether that's from overcommitments or, setting boundaries with people that are stressing us out. Chronic stress reduces your body's ability to repair itself, and it turns off your digestion. When you're really stressed, your body doesn't produce hydrochloric acid, which is the main digestive enzyme in your stomach. It lowers your I can't say it. Secretory, I'll say it differently. It lowers how much IgA your body secretes. There we go. Which is like your gut's frontline immune defense and literally makes the gut lining more permeable. So stress wrecks your gut. And so we got to figure out how can we eliminate stress when possible. And then, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, how can we coexist with the stress that there's no getting rid of? And then finally, there's the lack of fiber and food diversity. And I think this is a big one. Our ancestors ate dozens of different types of plants, and they were getting about 30 to 50 grams of fiber a day. And now I know there's going to be people who are going to be like, oh, well, I'm carnivore. I don't need fiber. Like, oh, I was eating a bunch of fiber and I felt worse, blah, blah, blah. There is room for bio-individuality here, but fiber is really important for the microbes in your gut for most people, I will say. And today, most people are lucky to get 10 to 15 grams of fiber. And most of that is from refined grains, not colorful vegetables or prebiotic-rich plants. And our microbes are starving in our gut, the 3 to 5 pounds of microbes. And really this creates the perfect storm: a wrecked microbiome, a weakened gut lining, and a hypervigilant immune system. That's leaky gut. That is leaky guts. Sorry, that's leaky guts. Oh my goodness, guys, I'm struggling. That is what leaky gut is in the real world. And so if left unaddressed, leaky gut doesn't just stay in your digestive system, it affects every single system of your body. And I want to say that again because I think this is really important. If leaky gut isn't addressed, it affects every single system of your body. And here are some of the most common downstream effects of leaky gut. Number one is chronic inflammation. So low-grade systemic inflammation that continues or that contributes to fatigue, joint pain, and metabolic dysfunction. And we're all about metabolic health here at Lifestyle School. 1 in 3 individuals have really poor metabolic health. Next up is food sensitivities. So when undigested food particles get into your bloodstream, your immune system sees them as foreign invaders, and that is how we end up with these foods that our body just can't tolerate. And like I talked about I believe 2 weeks ago in the Perfect Diet episode, this could even be real whole healthy foods, things like kale or broccoli or beef, chicken, onions. But your body may not be able to tolerate them because of this leaky gut. So removing things from your diet, allowing your leaky gut to heal, and then reintroducing them is the way to go. Next up is autoimmune disease. And um, I want to be clear, Dr. Alessio, I believe I'm saying this right, Alessio Fasano, one of the leading researchers in this space, has said that no autoimmune condition occurs without some degree of leaky gut. And that includes things like Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, and so much more. And I can say with certainty, we treated a lot of autoimmune conditions in clinic, in the functional medicine clinic that I worked in for 8 years. Many, many, many of our patients that came in who were so sick were kind of told there's nothing else we can do for you. They were dealing with autoimmune conditions. And every time we looked at their leaky gut, it was present. And as we healed their leaky gut, which was what was so cool, is a lot of times their autoimmune condition would go into remission. Like they would stop having, these huge flare-ups. And, if you've listened to past episodes, you may have heard my mom's story about her autoimmune conditions that she was diagnosed with in her 20s. They wanted to take part of her colon out, give her a colectomy, a bag where her stool would go into, and switched her diet, addressed leaky gut, and to this day she doesn't have. She has all of her colon, everything is intact, and she's actually never been on immune suppressant drugs, which is pretty much a miracle. But it can also affect things, leaky gut can affect things like mood disorders. Okay. The gut brain axis is real. And I feel like research, again, is in this area catching up more and more. You hear people talking about it, but leaky gut can lead to leaky brain. Things like anxiety, depression, irritability, all can be tied to what's going on in your gut. Also, things like skin issues, eczema, acne, rosacea, even premature aging of the skin are often gut related. So, ladies, stop spending thousands and thousands of dollars on skincare routines and take that money and invest it into your health, into your food, just cleaning up your diet, making sure you have a good intestinal barrier, because not only will your skin be so much better, but every other system of your body will benefit. And then lastly is metabolic problems. I mean, I shouldn't say lastly, there's other things, but for my list of things that I'm going to talk about today is metabolic problems. Leaky gut is critical for blood sugar control, which, again, we talk a lot about here at Lifestyle School. It's critical for insulin signaling as well as appetite regulation. So in short, if you're chasing symptoms all over the place and you're not really getting answers, I would encourage you that it's time to look at your gut, because it's very likely that you're dealing with leaky gut on some level. So the good news is you can absolutely heal your leaky gut, but you need to approach it strategically. And in functional medicine, we often use what's called the 5R framework for gut healing. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quickly walk you through that. So number one is remove. You have to remove the things that are causing the problem. That includes inflammatory foods like gluten, seed oils, sugar, alcohol, and processed junk food. It may also involve identifying and addressing infections like candida, parasites, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or also known as SIBO. And you may need to work with a practitioner here to test rather than guess. When I was working in clinic, we did a bunch of testing, and I will say it takes so much of the guesswork out of it for so many people, because we know exactly what we need to remove, what we need to kill in regards to bad overgrowths in the body, so that we can, move forward. Because if you don't remove the triggers for leaky gut, you're just going to be on like a hamster wheel trying to fix it. After you remove the triggers, you need to replace. So you have to support digestion. If you've been under stress or taking antacids for a long time, your stomach acid, bile, and digestive enzymes may be depleted. You need those to break down food and absorb nutrients. So what you can do is support this with digestive bitters, ginger tea, apple cider vinegar, or supplementing with digestive enzymes. That's something that I have to do. I'm just not very good at producing enough digestive enzymes, unfortunately, I've realized. Number three is reinoculate. And so this is where we begin to rebuild the microbiome. Again, 3 to 5 pounds of gut microbes sitting in your small intestines. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kefir, and kimchi can help if tolerated, especially those dairy products. You also want to feed your good bucks with prebiotic fiber. Think of things like asparagus, garlic, onions, or even something like Jerusalem artichokes. Prebiotic supplements, prebiotic and probiotic supplements may help and may be needed for a time. This is what I've seen in clinic, but I do want to stress that real food matters more long term because you can never out supplement a bad or a wrong diet. Number four of this 5R program is repair. Number four is repair. And this is where we, quote, seal the leaks. Okay. So some key nutrients that support gut lining repair include things like L-glutamine, which is an amino acid that fuels the gut lining. Things like zinc carnosine, collagen or bone broth, vitamin A and vitamin D, which are both fat soluble. So you do need to be careful about how much you take. Things like omega-3 fatty acids, and then quercetin, which can help stabilize mast cells and reduce histamine response. These nutrients can help strengthen the tight junctions and reduce inflammation in the gut lining. And then number five, the last one, is rebalance. So this is really where lifestyle comes into play because if you're eating all the right things but living in chronic stress, you won't heal. And I hope as you've listened to these podcast episodes, you're really starting to get that. It has to be a whole lifestyle change. You can't just change one area. It has to be an overhaul. You need to rebalance your nervous system. That means getting outside in natural light, moving your body, prioritizing sleep, doing things that bring joy and calm to your life, things like breath work, prayer, finding community, journaling. This part I want to emphasize is not optional. The gut-brain connection is real, and without addressing it, your progress will stall. So, some final thoughts regarding leaky gut. Leaky gut is real, it's common, and the good news is it's fixable. You don't have to live with bloating, fatigue, brain fog, or unpredictable symptoms. You don't have to accept autoimmunity as your baseline. You can take action, and it starts by understanding the root cause. So maybe today the first step is choosing a nourishing breakfast, going for a walk, or cutting out the foods that don't love you back. Maybe it's investing in your gut health with a supplement protocol. Maybe it's just understanding for the first time that your symptoms make sense. I want to emphasize this because I think it's so easy to get in this headspace, but you are not broken. Your body is speaking. And now hopefully you know how to listen to it better. Like you have more information, you have more knowledge. And so with that, guys, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If this episode was helpful for you, would you share it with a friend or leave a review on iTunes or Spotify so that more people can find this message? And if you're ready to go deeper, if you want help putting all these pieces together, check out my 8-week coaching program with Lifestyle School for Weight Loss, where we get into all of these root cause issues and we try to take a very personalized approach to what's keeping you stuck and moving you forward. And I would love to walk with you step by step through this process. So with that, guys, until next time, be kind to yourself, nourish your body, and keep showing up. You're doing better than you think, and I'm with you every step of the way.